Welcome to Ethical Point's latest explainer. Look, if you're an aspiring civil servant staring down General Studies Paper IV for the UPSC mains, you absolutely know it can feel like a massive maze of abstract theories, right? It's daunting. But today, we're stepping right into the role of your mentor. We're going to decode all these complex, ancient philosophies and actually transform them into an actionable, high-scoring framework for your exam. So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and let's get focused. Here's our blueprint for GS4 mastery today. We're going to cover defining core ethical concepts, East versus West frameworks, solving administrative dilemmas, shaping the civil servant, and finally, your UPSC GS4 answer strategy. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how ancient theories can solve modern bureaucratic problems.
All right, Section 1, defining core ethical concepts, the foundation of it all.
Okay, let's hit the brakes right here at the very beginning. Before we can apply ethics to a case study, we really have to strip away the heavy philosophical jargon. As a student of ethics, you are going to frequently encounter these two giants. In layman's terms, Aristotle's eudaimonia isn't just about a fleeting smile or a good day. It's the ultimate personal flourishing and achieving moral wisdom over a lifetime. Contrast this with the Indian principle of dharma, which is all about your righteous duty and adherence to the cosmic order, totally regardless of your personal happiness. As a modern Indian civil servant, your ethical decision-making will constantly require you to balance your own personal flourishing, that's eudaimonia, with your rigid, righteous duties, which is dharma.
Moving on to Section 2, East vs. West ethical frameworks, a clash of ideals. It's honestly fascinating to see what happens when these core frameworks clash on the actual battlefield of public service. On one side, you've got the Eastern concept of dharma, where the means absolutely matter. You act rightly to maintain cosmic balance, period. On the other side, you have Western utilitarianism, championed by thinkers like Bentham. In layman's terms, this is a consequentialist approach, meaning the end goal justifies the means as long as you are maximizing happiness for the greatest number of people. It's the classic timeless debate of doing the right thing versus getting the best result.
Let's define another absolutely crucial term you'll need, deontology. When you hear this, just think of Kant. In layman's terms, deontology is simply duty-based ethics. It argues that the absolute rightness of your action matters way more than the goodness of the outcome. You follow universal moral rules no matter what. So if lying is wrong, you do not lie, even if a lie would literally save a life. Crazy, right? But that's the rule.
So the really important point here is mapping how these frameworks differ for your answer writing. Indian Astika schools, like Samkhya, focus on internal spiritual balance. It's about balancing your gunas, which are your fundamental character traits, and purifying your mind and environment. It's an inside-out approach. Western deontology, however, relies on rigid, external, universal rules. So you can see the contrast. One relies on internal purity, the other on strict adherence to external duty.
Let's dive into Section 3, Solving Administrative Dilemmas, the Crucible. Now, theory is practically useless unless it helps you survive the real administrative friction you're going to face out in the field. Picture this highly realistic dilemma. You're an officer, and your personal moral conscience violently clashes with a direct, detached bureaucratic order. Let's say a policy legally requires you to evict a desperate, impoverished family. It happens. So which framework do you lean on to resolve this friction?
Yeah, you could use W.D. Ross. He offers what he calls prima facie duties. Layman translation, at first glance duties. These give you the flexibility to weigh competing duties against each other, like justice versus non-harming, depending on the context of the situation. Or, on the flip side, you could rely on Vedic moral principles, which dictate the unwavering absolute responsibilities of a noble person, or Arya, where the cosmic duty is fixed. Ross gives you that much-needed flexibility. The Vedas give you an unshakable anchor.
Look at how these philosophies dictate two completely different ways to handle a corrupt subordinate. Western consequentialism might tell you to just instantly terminate them to maximize the overall good and set a really harsh example. But Buddhist virtue ethics, which is deeply rooted in compassion and the Eightfold Path, might push you towards reforming that subordinate, trying to address the root cause of their suffering and greed. Two totally valid paths, vastly different administrative outcomes.
When you're totally stuck in these dilemmas, use the Nyaya school of logic as your step-by-step guide. First, perception. What are the direct facts right in front of you? Second, inference. What logical deductions can you make? Third, comparison. How does this relate to past precedents? And fourth, testimony. What do expert voices and the law actually say? This is literally your perfect formula for making rational, evidence-based public service decisions. We also absolutely have to acknowledge the friction highlighted by feminist scholars like Carol Gilligan. It's the clash between the ethics of care, often called maternal thinking, which is deeply context-dependent and focuses heavily on human relationships, against the detached, impersonal, and universally rigid nature of modern bureaucratic regulations. As an administrator, balancing that human empathy with cold regulation is going to be your daily tightrope walk.
Section 4. Shaping the Civil Servant, the Ecosystem.
So, where do an officer's values actually come from? To understand this, we use Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. It maps influences from the micro level, like your immediate family, all the way out to the macro level, which includes national laws and broad culture. For a civil servant, understanding these local and macro social dynamics is the only way to enact public policy that actually drives lasting social change. I mean, think about it. You can't fix a problem if you don't understand the ecosystem that created it in the first place.
Think about the imprint period, those first 7 years of life, and the socialization period going up to age 21. A future administrator's ethical foundation is so deeply shaped here. The unconditional love of a family, mixed with the cultural norms flowing around them, creates their early biases, their beliefs, and their core values. If a society normalizes corruption, a child might internalize that long before they ever sit for the UPSC exam.
And this is exactly where formal educational institutions step in. Their specific role, particularly during civil service training at places like LBS-NAA, is to bridge any parental voids, actively counter those bad societal influences, and foster lifelong integrity. It's all about socializing peers to hold each other to the absolute highest moral standards before they are sent out into the field to govern.
Finally, Section 5, UPSC GS4 Answer Strategy, High-Scoring Blueprints.
Let's translate all this philosophy into a high-scoring exam blueprint. To nail your standard introductions, use powerful quotes that demonstrate deep understanding. Take Kautilya on Rajdharma, for example. The goodness of a person spreads in all directions. Quoting this illustrates beautifully how an administrator's transparency, goodness, and strong character can naturally conquer systemic corruption. It just sets an incredibly commanding tone for your answer right out of the gate. You can also deploy specific actionable lessons from Indian reformers directly into your case studies. Use Lord Ram to argue that the means must match the ends. Cite Ashoka to defend the use of soft power and conquest by Dharma. Bring in Adi Shankara to argue for knowledge over administrative ignorance, or Kabir to emphasize looking inwards to build personal integrity. These are real tools for your arsenal.
And whatever you do, never underestimate Gandhi. Quoting his principles, specifically the concept of trusteeship and the 7 deadly sins, like wealth without work or commerce without morality, adds immense weight to your answers. They are absolutely perfect for tackling questions regarding corporate governance, financial scams, and maintaining public probity.
You're also going to need diverse philosophical tools to structure your arguments. Contrast Swami Vivekananda's scientific humanism and his profound call for devotion to mankind with Bhagat Singh's revolutionary atheistic rationalism and his ultimate sacrifice for justice, showing the examiner that you can handle both spiritual duty and pragmatic rationalism. That proves your intellectual depth for sure. So, the absolutely crucial point here is following these exact steps to structure a compelling way forward or conclusion for a 15-marker. Step 1, clearly define the core ethical term. Step 2, cite a relevant thinker from the East or West. Step 3, apply structured logic like the Nyaya framework we talked about. And Step 4, propose an actionable solution that balances Western frameworks with the Indian concept of Dharma. It's like a guaranteed recipe for a great answer. We'll leave you with this final provocative thought. As you step into the shoes of a future civil servant, will you merely be guided by the rigid mechanical rules of the bureaucratic system, or will you cultivate the deep moral wisdom necessary to truly create a virtuous society? Look beyond the syllabus, embody the ethics you study, and we'll see you in the next explainer.